Hello and welcome everybody. This is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars and the new N+1 podcast. I'm so glad that you could join us today. This podcast is all about obsession and talking to people who are into things. The whole idea is that when you're obsessing about things and collecting things, you always want one more. So that's what we are love to talk about and love to dive into. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, one of my very dearest friends, one of my really good friends. I always love, how many times have I introduced you to this like this? I always love to introduce this good friend of mine as the person that I used to give guitar lessons to.
Yep.
This is my good friend, Cianen Brenan. Cianen, hello.
How's it going?
I'm doing good. Cianen is a young buck, young lad, fresh out of college, just graduated from University of Nevada, Reno, with his degree in engineering.
Yeah, mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering. Extremely bright young lad. When we talk about building stuff, I talk about it from the guitar standpoint, and he starts talking about numbers and stuff, and my eyes glaze over. But then we start playing guitar, and as I mentioned, there was a while, his mom came to me. We used to attend the same church. His mom, hey, I want you to give my son lessons, and I gave him lessons a couple times, but Cianen has a long time ago surpassed me on the guitar ability. I will say though, the last time we jammed, and we had a lot of fun up in your house, but I did get to show you a few tricks with that YouTube stuff we were doing. Yeah, so this old dog's got a few tricks I can teach them whippersnappers. So, but man, I gotta say, I saw you at the casino, the Black Oak Casino, and man, you were just ripping some heads. You can really play. We'll do some plugs at the end if people want to check you out. Yeah. But Cianen is a good friend of mine, a great musician, and a really good dude. But what I wanted to talk about was your obsession. So what are you super into? When did you first get into it? And what was your gateway drug getting into it?
So it's funny because I would say overall my obsession would be the electric guitar or guitar in general, and it's kind of the culmination between all the things that I love.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like engineering, you mentioned I'm just graduated from school, mechanical engineering, and I've always grown up loving machines and putting things together and building things and tinkering, that kind of a thing. And guitar, there's so many things. There's so many pedals that you can play with and amps.
Right.
And you can build your own guitars, and it's awesome. So there's all that. But you can even I've built pedals and stuff before. There's programming and electrical stuff, all kinds of things. And then on top of that, one of the other things I love more than anything is being able to put a smile on somebody's face.
Totally, that is awesome.
Yeah, which is awesome. So it's kind of all of the things that I love all put into one in this nice, neat little thing, which happens to be the electric guitar. So.
Right. But if I recall properly, you were super into golf.
Well.
Right?
Well.
You were super into golf, and then you had something come up that changed kind of your direction, and you couldn't play golf anymore, or you couldn't play it at the same frequency or the same intensity that you used to, and then you channeled that passion from golf into guitar. Is that accurate?
That's close. Story? So what kind of happened was my dad's been a football coach for he played in high school, and he's been a coach for I don't even know, 20, older than me, probably 25
Does he still
years
do that?
At least now. He still does it now. So it's kind of been something growing up, and everybody football was kind of a big thing. And then whenever high school came around, I played all through Pop Warner and all that stuff. And when high school came around, I ended up being diagnosed a liver thing. So I couldn't do any contact sports. So that was kind of football is a big thing in the family, and I couldn't do it.
Okay.
So it was kind of weird. And just before that, my 8th grade year, I had taken one guitar lesson from kind of a friend of ours, family friend. And so I had that kind of milling. So whenever football fell flat and I had all this extra free time, I kind of turned to that. And and it turned into this awesome thing I just described that turns out to be you know, the culmination of everything that I like.
So you kind of pivoted and shifted.
Exactly, yeah.
And you kind of had that spark, and you kind of started going.
Yeah, you mentioned, I would say that's like the kind of the gateway.
Gateway drug.
Right.
Yeah. So why do you love guitar and music so much?
I don't know. As far as music goes, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like whenever you're playing, I remember like the first time I played with you and Norm and Eddie and everything.
Yeah.
And everybody, like the drums start going and the bass starts going,
Right.
and you kind of just get this feeling, and then being able to add something to that it's a great feeling. It's awesome.
It is awesome.
And it's also kind of a universal language that everyone can understand, you know?
Right.
Which I think is really interesting. It brings people together that you never would expect.
Definitely. And that's the thing, you know, you can play with people that don't speak the same language. If you don't speak English, you know, someone else speaks Spanish, another person speaks Korean, another person speaks Japanese, and you go, "Hua, hu, hip, ha," downbeat, and everyone is playing the same thing, and it doesn't matter. And then you go, and then you're on the bridge, you know, and like you don't really need to speak, you know, you just get into the right key and you can be jamming and having fun. Yeah. So that is kind of magic about music, is it's kind of magic.
Yeah, totally.
So that is pretty awesome. So let's get into your obsession a little bit. What are some of the highlights or the favorites or the best pieces of your collection? What do you really love in your collection? Don't tell me about your absolute favorite. We'll save that for later. But what are some of the best, your highlights of your collection right now?
A couple of my favorites.
Yeah. I know you brought some guitars with you, and we can pull some of those out.
Yeah.
And you can mention things you don't have with you also. So.
Right. I'll try and not do anything duplicate many times. But I know this is one of my favorites. This is the first, I consider it the first real guitar that I ever got.
Yep. And so tell us about what this is.
So this is a Nashville Telecaster. So it's your traditional Telecaster. It's got the two tele pickups. But then Nashville, it's also got a Strat pickup in the middle.
Right.
And it comes stock with a 5-position switch, which is just switched like a traditional.
And this is made in Mexico, right?
Right. Made in Mexico, so she's not the super fancy one, but it's pretty nice when I got it for my skill level. It was a very nice guitar. Right. And it's, like, I still play it in gigs and stuff.
Right. And I remember you've had this for a while, and you've played the heck out of this thing.
I really have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've ended up somewhat recently, I put a new bridge on it.
Okay.
With the brass saddles and everything.
Yeah. I did that with my Tele too, putting the brass saddles on, and it gives a little bit less harsh sound. The brass is a little bit more mellow than the steel, and I felt like that was an improvement personally.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more true to the Telecaster sound, personally.
Yeah. Well, it's the traditional design. I also was having problems with like string breakage because it had like those 6 individual barrel ones. Yeah. And something with the way that like the groove was cutting them, I would break strings like crazy. So it wasn't working out, so I had to change it to this.
So this is one of your favorite. What do you like so much about this guitar?
It's just kind of, I don't know, it's always been with me through kind of my whole journey. I've learned a lot, and you can see that some of the frets are pretty wore out and everything, so they're not terrible, but they're not in excellent shape, though.
Okay, you got...
like,
what's really bad is your string, man. You need a string change.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't play this as much as I once did.
The string shaming, everyone here. We're gonna dirty string shaming here. Yeah, this is just a great guitar. You know, this wouldn't maybe go into maybe a museum. Well, I mean, unless you get super famous, which I'm not saying won't happen. But this is just like a great player grade guitar. Right. This is made for gigging, made for the working musician. It's gonna hold it down. And the thing though, I remember making fun of you. Do you remember what I said when I heard you play this guitar? Do you remember what I said?
I remember you making fun of me. I don't remember what it was.
I was like, that's not a Tele, that's a Strat.
Because of the 5.
Because of the 5-way switch. Because you know, but
what I've done though, I thought that was a problem too. I put one of those freeway 10-position switches on it, but I only use it for basically the series and parallel versions of this.
So for listeners that are not familiar with guitars, so there's 3 pickups on here, and we might have listeners that are not viewers also. So I'll try to explain. There's 3 pickups on this guitar, and there's a switch that'll choose between them. Normally a Telecaster has 2 pickups with a 3-way switch that'll choose between them. and then on a Nashville Telecaster, there's 3 pickups instead that'll switch between them, and then it controls like a Telecaster where you can choose between them. But he's put in a modification where the switch, instead of having a 5-way selector, is actually a 10-way selector, which is it's a pretty badass modification, and you can't even tell it's there. Where you have 5 switches, 5 positions here, and then you can push the switch down, and then you get 5 more positions, and that's pretty cool.
It's like shifting gears.
Yeah, you kind of shift gears, so you can't even tell it's there, and that's the coolest thing.
Right,
it's like
so I get those extra positions without you even knowing.
That's pretty cool. So now it is a Telecaster.
Yeah.
Telecaster Plus. So that's an awesome entry into your gear. I know you've had this for a long time. So.
Right. That's why it's notable, but as you can tell by the strings, I don't play it lately.
Do you have any other pieces of gear that are part of your favorites right now? Maybe stuff you haven't brought with you, or
I'm trying to think. I brought most of my favorite highlight types with me.
Well, I know you got that amp recently. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's been treating you pretty good.
That thing's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Mesa Boogie Lone Star.
Oof, that's good. I mean, you got it. It wasn't working.
Yeah, I bought it, and it was it's a very expensive amp, but it was relatively cheap because it wasn't in excellent shape. Right. So I kind of knew going into it, but as soon as just shortly after I got it, it ended up having a couple problems. But I went through it and cleaned all the contacts out. And
nice.
I ended up fixing it. So.
As a guitar tech, I do not work on amps. Amps scare me, but you're an engineer. You can handle it. Let's talk about underdogs. Is there anything in your collection that you would consider like underrated? Like maybe you got secondhand or at a thrift store, or anything that maybe punches above its weight class, or maybe someone might look down at, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so my girlfriend got me a guitar. What actually happened is I was playing this I was doing something, but she was carrying him inside for me, helping me out. And she had one guitar sitting on top of the other type of thing, and she scratched it. And I was like, well, it obviously has some bigger issues with it, but I was like, oh, you scratched my guitar, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
I wasn't actually mad, but I was kind of giving her a hard time. She's like, oh, no, I'll buy you a new one. And then it happened to be our anniversary came around recently after, and she bought me a Squier, which is, I wanted a guitar with a Bigsby on it and stuff. And So she bought me a Squier with a Bigsby on it and everything. And it's a Squier, so it's not, excellent, but something about it, it's got cheap pickups in it, but that bridge pickup, it's really bright and trebly.
Also a Telecaster shape, or?
Yeah, it's a Telecaster.
What kind of pickups on it?
That's what, there's a Squier something.
But are they Telecaster pickups,
or? Tele pickup in the bridge,
or?
And it's got it looks like a Filtertron in the neck.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I don't even know if it might be a humbucker with the Filtertron looking. The Filtertron sounds like garbage.
I think I've seen that guitar. I just can't picture it right now. But
the Filtertron sounds like, the neck pickup sounds terrible, but the bridge pickup you can tell it's a cheap pickup because it's real thin and everything. But whenever you play that thing, especially through my amp it has plenty of bass in it. Yeah. It just sounds awesome.
It's nice.
Sometimes it just hits it cuts through the mix real good, and it just hits the perfect spot.
It does that telly thing,
right?
It just drives those treble frequencies in just the right way to get
super gnarly.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like we were talking about the treble booster.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just really aggressive and harsh like that, which is awesome in some situations. Right. So just stock like that, Squier, just like that. I kind of just love it, just like that,
Nice. Do you have anything in your collection that's currently in the dog house? Maybe something you've grown unsatisfied with, or maybe something you're considering getting rid of, or fallen out of love with, or something you used to love but you don't. I don't know. Something that you're not super happy with.
Yeah, I built a guitar for my senior project.
Oh yeah.
And it was the first guitar that I built.
Right.
And I still love it to this day. It's still an awesome thing. I'll never get rid of it. But I've just gone through I put a weird set of strings on it and had it in open G to kind of give it something different. I really want to play slide, but I don't actually play slide.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I put open G setup on it, and I just don't play it as much as I once did, which is kind of sad. And also the other thing is the color on it. I kind of regret the color choices I used on it. It's got a really beautiful man's needed pickguard.
Right, I remember that.
That was my favorite part about it. But I'm thinking maybe if it was a more of like a dark, like kind of a transparent black finish, or something like that would contrast with the Manzanita really well, like that. Something
you could
like
always
that.
go back and sand the finish back and try something else.
At some point, that's my.
And that is a cool project, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the nice thing about when you make your own thing, that you could just kind of.
Right. That's also the issue I find, though, because I'm like, oh, I could do this now, and I'm not satisfied with it, you know. But
nice. Okay, cool. All right, we're kind of mowing through these questions. That's great. This is going to be probably a long conversation for us because I know that you've been doing a lot of this. Is there any gear that you've made yourself? Which I know the answer is yes. Anything that you DIY'd? How have they turned out? What have you learned? And what would you do differently next time?
I was looking at my guitars before I came here. I built most of them recently too.
Is this where we want to start pulling some out?
Yeah, sure.
Let's pull out some of these DIY. You want to grab the green one? I'll grab this one.
Sure.
So these are guitars that Cianen's made. So you got a CNC for a birthday present, or?
No, I decided to. Me and my girlfriend went half and half on it, and we planned on doing like home decor type stuff, the type of stuff you would pay too much money for at Pottery Barn and things like that, because it seemed like it still seems like something that would be.
You can make good money at that.
You can make money doing that. So it seemed like
it's a good investment, and
and at least a really cool tool that'll pay for itself in the long run.
Yeah.
But in learning to use that, in learning to like write tool paths and model things, like a guitar, which is incredibly difficult to model, I've only made guitars on it so far.
So you know, Cianen went to school for engineering, so he literally knows how to do these things. I look at a CNC and I go, like, ooh, that's cool, and I have no idea. Like, I just know that it's a tool that can be used for making guitars, but I don't even know the first thing about how to use a CNC, other than that they can be used for making guitars. But Cianen actually understands the whole thing, and so he's been cranking out these guitars. Every time I go over there's a new guitar. But these are two of them, and I don't want to disparage you, but I feel like we've got two guitars, and one is a massive success, and one is a borderline fail, right? I'm not. That's not offensive, right? This one's not awesome. I kind of call this is like a 10-foot guitar, like from 10 feet away. It looks so cool.
Yep.
And then you get really close, and you're like, "What? Wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Wait, what's going on? What's going on? Wait, what's going on? Wait, this guitar is really cool, and you did a lot of stuff that's really cool on this guitar, and it plays really good.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of stuff that is mega jank on this guitar. So for the audio listeners, this is kind of an Ernie Ball Music Man style guitar, kind of like a Wolfgang style guitar, like the Eddie Van Halen, like not his crazy pinstriped guitar that he made, but more like his more modern. So it's like a single cutaway, dual humbucker with a Floyd Rose, and it's kind of like a gunmetal gray. The neck is pretty good. But what is that?
It's mahogany.
That's mahogany. Oh, it's just like stained really dark. Or...
No, it came really dark. It's like an African mahogany.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the neck is pretty good, but then like
that was actually this one the body. I built the body by hand. So that's one of the... I built the body by hand, and then I had a neck on it that I got from eBay just to kind of practice fret work on type of thing. And I ended up, when I got my CNC machine, I was like, hey, I can make a neck now. Might as well give it a shot. So that was actually my first neck that I built, too.
Okay.
And it turns out... I don't know. You kind of... It's a 10-foot guitar. You kind of nailed it. That was perfect. And I'd actually say most of my DIY guitars are that way. Because I can't bring myself to just build a normal guitar. I have to try something absolutely crazy. Like on this one, like the body's made of black oak that I cut out of a log in my backyard.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Right. Which I kind of like the heaviness. And it's like got like denim on the sides.
Right.
Like, that's so bizarre. And it's got... You can tell my finishing work is...
Right, so you did like an epoxy finish, which is still a little sticky.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like, you can see where the boards are kind of weird. Like,
yeah. So what happened was, like I said, I cut this slab out of a log.
Right. So
and my idea was I wanted it to look like firewood, basically.
Uh-huh.
Because where we're from, Tuolumne, where I grew up and everything,
Mm-hmm.
like oak trees and stuff are everywhere. So it's kind of like, I was like, black oak would be a cool thing to be, that's related to home and everything. So it's black oak, and I wanted the front to look like a piece of firewood. So it's the marks in it. You can see it almost looks like flame, sort of. It's me going with a chainsaw and just hacking it up, so it looked like a piece of firewood. I don't know. I think it's an interesting look. And then it's got the denim on the sides, and the back is burnt.
Is the denim rubbing off?
No. Okay. So like I said, it sounds like a cool idea when I just subscribed, but actually, like, making that happen is a different thing. So whenever you burn the back and you've got fabric on the sides and you've got a hacked up front, you got to do epoxy, which I knew nothing about. So I just attempted to slap epoxy on there, which is hard to do on a three-dimensional object because you always have the bottom side, which you get drips and things.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't polish it, so yeah, I've literally refinished that guitar probably like 7 times.
Wow. And then I know we played this guitar, and the pickups are not great sounding pickups. We won't say what they are. We don't want to disparage anybody, but they might be worth an upgrade because it does play really good.
Yeah.
And that's the one kind of great thing on this, is that it does play really good, and it feels pretty good to play. But this is I would say like a 7 out of 10 on the jank scale, on the jankiness.
Yep,
but it looks really cool from about 7 or 10 feet away, and the fretboard's pretty good, and it, like I said, it plays really good.
That's one of my favorite things about it, is that fretboard. It's the same thing out of that black oak, because I don't even know, I had it sitting around or something.
And you're using stainless frets when you make these?
Yeah,
right?
for those, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't ventured into the stainless frets yet. That just seems like a lot of work, and
I don't. A lot of work. I'm
I've
kind of moving away.
I've heard that it's really hard on your tools, and tools are expensive. So tell us about this one though, because to me, if this is a 10-foot guitar that's like a 7 out of 10 on the jank scale, this one's not. This is a guitar that is just baller. This guitar is an absolute like winner, because I played this guitar. I mean, it's a little jank.
It's like, a little jank, yeah.
It's still like a little jank, but man, I played this guitar. So tell us about this one.
I would say the main reason for your initial reaction is because it's got the much nicer pickups in it, and it sounds much better. And this is actually one of the best playing guitars I think I'd made. Yeah. Yeah.
So for the listeners, this is kind of like a Les Paul Jr. style guitar. It's kind of like a slab body, single cutaway. It does have a bolt-on neck. It was a walnut neck.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the scale on this? Is it?
It's a Fender scale.
A Fender scale. 25 and a half. Okay. Mm-hmm. Single P90 in the bridge. And what kind of pickup is that?
It's a Lawler P90.
So he's got a Lawler P90, dog ear P90 in the bridge. Okay. But the thing about this guitar, besides playing great and looking cool, it's kind of like a green, like a forest green with like a chamfered. The kind of cool thing is that he did a chamfer that it cuts back to the wood. It's got this like reveal before it goes to the black on the back.
It's almost like a binding type.
Yeah, it almost looks like binding. So it looks really cool. And then he's got, what's this wood that you have for the pick guard?
That's that oak again.
Oh, more of that oak?
Slab that I cut out,
the split right there. It's just cool looking. But this thing plays awesome, and it sounds so good. And like one pickup, you don't need anything else. This thing is a rock and roll monster. It's a rock and roll machine. What do you want to say about it? I'm talking a lot of talking here.
So the story behind this was I had a Jeep that I drove all through high school and everything, and it's this cool green color. Yeah, and it's like, this is kind of it. But I had to repaint the hood because the clear coat was coming off. And it looks terrible and everything. But I had some leftover paint, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna try and spray some paint on a guitar. And I had we were actually painting my brother's truck at the time too. So my uncle was coming over to paint the truck. So I was like, I'm gonna make 3 guitar bodies, and we're gonna paint them and see what happens. And so this one is green, just like the Jeep I had in high school. So it turned out, not perfect. There's some orange peel in it and stuff, and it is what it is. Finishing I found is the hardest thing at all.
Oh, totally.
For sure.
Oh,
but,
yeah, 100%.
But that's kind of the inspiration for it is green. It turned out a little lighter than I wanted, but...
Yeah, I didn't even... I forgot about... You have the inlay at the 12th fret says Jeep
on it,
so...
Yeah,
awesome.
and same thing, oak. Like you're driving through the woods and stuff, and...
Yeah, the neck on this one is a little flat in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like the truss rod channel on that one got, like the wood wasn't dried properly or something. But yeah, I have that one tuned down a half step right now. And drop D too. Or so D sharp. But yeah, that P90 right there is just awesome.
Oh yeah. It's light. Is it chambered?
That's one thing too. Same thing, like I said, every time I go and build a guitar, it's like kind of, I'm trying new things in every direction. So I went into to buy wood into the hardwood store there in Reno. And I was like, shoot, I don't know what... I've heard basswood is a guitar body.
Oh, this is basswood?
Right, and it was cheap, so I was like, I might as well give it a shot. I'm going to build 3 bodies. I'm going to give it a shot. So I bought some basswood and some alder is what I did. And
yeah,
this is the alder one.
Super light.
Yeah, which I don't like.
The neck is like heavier than the body is, but...
I don't like it light like that. So in the future, I found that I like alder.
Yeah.
That little experiment.
Alder's great. Alder's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. These are awesome guitars. We're going to move on here. But real quick, we are going to pause for a quick break. Word from our sponsors. This episode of the M+1 podcast has been made possible by, well, me. Miller's Custom Guitars. I service guitars in the Sonora, Jamestown, Twain Harte area of the California Motherlode region. You know, if you're in the area, I'd love to service your guitar and get it back in your hands, up and running. I've been basically servicing my own guitars ever since I started playing guitar. I'd love to get your guitar up and running and back in your hands. Also, this podcast would not be possible if it weren't for the loving support of my beautiful wife, who happens to have an Etsy shop where she makes these amazing miniature paintings. If you are into miniatures, you should go check out her Etsy store, which is called DD Minis. Those are super cool, and you should check out her Etsy store and buy some of her art, which is incredible. We'll have her on sometime to talk about it. Last of all, the best way that you can support this show is by sharing it with a friend, giving it a review on Apple Podcasts, telling someone about this podcast, giving it a like, giving it a subscribe, giving it a follow in your podcast feed, getting the word out. That would really help me out a lot. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, enough for the ads. Let's get back to Cianen and hear what he has to say about guitars. All right, and we're back. So, another question I have, this is a new question I just added. Do you have any guilty pleasures? Something that others might look down on. Maybe you're running a Boss Metal Zone, or something that other guitar players might look at and say, oh, that's lame, why would you do that? But you do it anyway. Something that, it's just a guilty pleasure.
Yeah. I would say this thing probably. Like you said, the 10-foot thing.
Yeah.
I love the way this thing looks. I hate the way it feels.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way it plays. I hate the way it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, as a guitar player, it's kind of disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
But up on stage holding it, I still feel kind of cool. So I still attempt to play it at some of my gigs and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, from a distance.
Yeah. You got to put some good pickups in there. You'd be happy with it.
I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put some better pickups in it and deal with, there's an issue with the bridge. But once I do that, I think it'll be passable to play on stage, and it'll
you should try
make up for some of the flaws.
I mean, something cheap, like the Guitar Fetish pickups are so cheap. But I've heard really good things about them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they're $40-$50, and you can just pop them in there, and...
Yeah, one thing is, too, I'm not familiar with humbuckers, really, at all.
Oh, yeah.
So, for all I know, this could just be what humbuckers sound like. And I just don't like it.
No.
But that's my, it's my experience.
Yeah, maybe before we go, you can try my my ES335.
Oh, yeah.
Because those are have so much clarity.
Right.
I mean, you can totally rock with them, but they have so much clarity. Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely... Those are very dark, muddy pickups.
Yeah, I'm not a fan at all.
Garbage.
If I turn the treble and presence up on my amp, it'll sound okay. But then I go to plug in like my Telecaster or something, and then my Telecaster sounds terrible. So it's just like it's way too far out of the range of being able to work with my setup. But I still try and play it anyway.
Nice. We got just a couple questions left here. What is your current favorite piece in your collection? What makes it so special, and why is it beating out the rest?
So this thing right here,
Ooh, baby.
Yeah. It's a, I don't know if any guitar people out there have probably seen a Jack Daniels whiskey barrel guitar at some point out on there.
Yeah.
They're somewhat popular. That Jaron Johnson or whatever. What's
I don't
his
know
name?
who it is.
He's that guy always playing cigar box guitars and stuff.
Okay.
But he,
Jack Johnson or
I don't remember his
I don't
name.
know.
It's something with a J, but he plays like the shovel guitars and weird stuff like that.
Okay.
But he I think was one of the guys who played a whiskey barrel guitar.
Okay.
One of the first guys that I saw. And they're made out of like actual Jack Daniels whiskey barrels.
Okay.
So they got the markings on them and stuff. But the other guy in my band said he wanted one of those. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try and build it. You know, you buy the parts and I'll slap it together and see if I can learn something and make something cool out of it. And I persuaded him basically to put all of my favorite parts into it. So actually this isn't even my guitar, but
Yeah.
I'm almost done building it.
yeah.
And I just love it. I kind of, want to keep it. I'm going to have to build my own, basically,
Yeah.
type of a thing.
Okay, so for the audio listeners, this is a Les Paul like special style guitar, a slab body. It's got a single P90 pickup. It's got like a Floyd Rose style bridge system on it, like with a locking nut. And then differing from the green one had like a wraparound, like a Tunomatic style bridge. This one's got a Floyd Rose with a locking nut. The thing about this that makes it so special is, these aren't barrels. You made this.
No, right.
Is that pallet wood
Yeah.
or just...
Well, so I did not have access to Jack Daniels whiskey
Right.
barrels. I don't even know where you would get them.
Right.
And honestly, the one thing I didn't like about the Jack Daniels whiskey barrel guitars is that the logo ends up in a weird place. It doesn't really look right. So I took some oak pallets and kind of made like this slat look and left them roughed up as I could.
Yeah.
And then I just,
You did this with your CNC, right?
yeah, I ended up engraving it with my CNC and I tried to burn it and stuff, but like everything is kind of an
Yeah.
experiment with me.
So I'll just tell you, like, this just looks so cool, and it's perfectly placed. It looks really super cool, and then you add the old number 7 on the fretboard.
On the 7th fret.
Yeah, on the 7th fret. So you did that on your inlays. And then you tried to do, once again, you mentioned before we started recording that all your guitars are kind of janky. Here, flip it over. You can't hide your shame here. You were trying to do a back that slipped on for the back, and that didn't work out. And you're going to do that
Not
eventually,
yet.
right?
I'm gonna figure it
You're going
out.
to do that. That kind of was going to hide your guts here.
Yeah.
But one thing I love about this guitar is the neck. You finally made a neck that was thick enough for me.
Yeah.
Your necks are always kind of thin.
I was persuaded by you to try
Yeah.
baseball bats.
Yeah, and
Try
you
it.
don't have any finish on it yet, so it's a little rough. Man, this
work in
thing absolutely rips. This is what you were playing at the casino, and I saw you at the casino, and man, you were melting heads on this guitar, and it sounded phenomenal. What pickup do you have in there?
It's another Lawler P90.
A Lawler P90.
The one on the green one that I used
But this
sounded
is
so
a
good. I had to have
soap bar
another
instead
one.
of a dog ear.
Right, just because it's easier to mount.
Yeah.
That's basically the
Yeah.
only reason.
Nice.
Looks a little cleaner.
All right. Okay, so now we get to the most important question of the whole thing. What is N+1? What is next? What have you been working towards, eyeballing, what gassing for?
As far as building goes, I would say, I don't know. So I definitely, this thing's going to leave me soon because I'm going to have to give it to my buddy. So
you need to
I'm
make
going to have to
another one of
build
those.
another one of these for sure.
You definitely
And-
got to.
And I'm going to have to clean up some of the
Problems.
problems.
Right.
So
And then we have our guitar that we've been making
yeah, and that
for like
one
2
too.
years.
There's
or
that
whatever.
one. So I guess it's like N+3, but because
Yeah.
I also have, I really want to build a 5-string bass for my bass.
Okay. All right.
Really bad. So it's like, it's my new thing. I've been designing it and stuff. I have it all
Yeah.
drawn up, but so yeah, that's another thing that
Awesome.
I'm working on right there. Yeah.
Cool. We're going to wrap up here, and then I thought it'd be really cool if we got out some acoustic guitars, I have them there, and maybe played a song.
Mhm.
So I think I will cut to that now. So I'll just cut to that now, and we'll splice that in, and we'll figure something out and play some cool music, and then we will get out. Okay, Keenan, what is something that you would tell to someone who is new to guitars or maybe building or wanting to get into guitars? Where would you tell them to start?
I would say my advice in general for kind of anything, I guess, that you're interested in would be to just do it. Like, do something. You know what I mean? Like, so I had an interest in building guitars, so I mean, the best thing I could have done was to go and build one.
Right.
And, like, a lot of these have issues with them, but the fastest way to learn is to do it and plow through it and learn.
Right.
And that's, kind of the quickest way towards progress.
Right.
I'd say as far as learning music and stuff, learning the guitar, it's important to start somewhere with, like, a guitar that's actually playable.
Start with a guitar that's playable, for sure.
But aside from that...
Here's my thing on that, is, like, it's not like when I was a kid, like, the cheap import guitars, when I was a kid, were actually absolute trash. And nowadays, for $250, you can get a monster guitar.
Yeah.
Don't buy a $100 guitar. Buy like a $200 or $250 guitar, and that thing will be dynamite.
Yeah, you can find the right one.
Yeah, it just go to a store, play some guitars. That's what I would say. Personally.
Yeah, as long as you do your research.
Right.
And
play something that connects to you, and that you connect with, and something that you want to play is something that you're going to be wanting to play and reaching for. Personally, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's another thing as far as like learning like guitar and practicing and stuff is making it easy to do.
Oh sure.
Like if it's in a place where it's easy to just pick it up and like start playing, you're more likely to do that. So make it easier on yourself in that way.
Totally, 100% agree with you. Well, thank you, Keenan, so much for your time. Thank you for coming out and coming over here today. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on. How can people connect with you, find your music, if they are interested in doing that? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm kind of a little bit tough because I don't have any social media. I'm an alien in that way. But you can look at my band, northforkband.com.
Northforkband.com. We'll put a link.
Yep. And then Instagram. Everything's linked on there with the YouTube and... Instagram's linked on there, but Instagram is _official.
Okay.
I don't even know how you say the Instagram label.
It's right? Isn't it?
Yeah, so it must be at @Northfork_official.
Great.
I think there's Facebook on there too.
Yeah, check him out. Check out his band. Check out his music. Well, cool. That is it for us today. This has been Adam from N+1 Podcast and Miller Custom Guitars. And until next time, don't be a jerk.